All right, let's jump right into it. We're talking about something huge today, India's new code on social security. And believe me, this isn't just a small update. It's a fundamental rewrite of the rules, designed to bring India's labor laws into the 21st century.
Think about that for a second. It sounds kind of crazy, right? But for millions of people, that was the reality. The old system was this patchwork of laws, some dating back before the internet, before smartphones, before the way we work today even existed. It just left so many modern workers completely unprotected.
So, here's the big move. We're going from a tangled mess of 9 different, often confusing social security laws to one single, streamlined code. The whole point is to take this old, complicated system and replace it with something simple, modern, and, this is the key part, something that covers everyone.
And that brings us to the core idea here. One code, many workers. It's all about consolidation, sure, but more than that, it's about universalization. It's about creating one giant social security umbrella that's big enough for every single worker. And when I say every worker, I mean every worker. The ambition here is massive. We're talking about a safety net that covers the person in a traditional office job, the construction worker, and, for the very first time, the delivery driver zipping through traffic or the freelancer working from their laptop. This is where things get really interesting. This is probably the most game-changing part of the whole thing. The code is building a brand new safety net specifically for the digital age workforce, a group that, legally speaking, was pretty much invisible before. You know, for the first time ever, Indian law is actually defining what a gig worker or a platform worker is. And that might sound like just legal jargon, but it's a huge deal. Why? Because you can't protect a group of people until you legally recognize they exist. This is step 1 to getting them things like insurance, maternity benefits, the whole shebang. So how's this all going to work? Well, the code sets up a whole new system. You've got a National Social Security Board to come up with the plans, you've got state-level boards to make it happen on the ground, and, this is crucial, there's a Social Security fund that'll be paid into by the government and, importantly, by the big digital platforms themselves. For a worker, the process is designed to be super simple and digital. You hop onto a national portal, you register, and you get a unique ID number. That's it. That number is your key to Social Security. And because it's a single national ID, your benefits are portable. You can move from one state to another for work, and your safety net comes right along with you. Okay, so that's the new digital workforce. But the code also brings some really big, concrete wins for people in more traditional jobs, especially if you're working on a contract. This number right here, this is a game changer. If you're a fixed-term employee, so hired on a contract, you're now eligible for your gratuity payment after just 1 year of service. Let's just look at how big a difference this makes. Before, whether you were permanent or on a contract, you had to work for 5 years to get your gratuity. For someone on a 2-year project, that was basically impossible. Now, that requirement is slashed down to just 1 year. That's a huge financial security boost for millions of contract workers. Here's another really important pro-worker change. If you have an accident while traveling to or from your job, it's now officially considered a workplace accident. That means you're eligible for compensation, which just wasn't the case before. The code also really doubles down on support for working women, locking in the provision for up to 26 weeks of paid maternity leave. That's a massive pillar of support for new mothers. And the support doesn't stop there. We're talking about things like work-from-home options after leave, mandatory childcare facilities for any company with over 50 employees, and protected nursing breaks. These are real, practical steps to help women stay and succeed in the workforce. But look, this code isn't just a one-way street. It also has a major goal of improving the ease of doing business in India by actually simplifying things for employers. This is a fundamental shift in attitude. The code is getting rid of the old Inspector Raj, which was all about policing and punishment. Instead, we now have an inspector come facilitator. Their job is no longer just to find fault, it's to actually guide and support businesses to help them comply with the law. To give businesses more certainty, there are now strict deadlines for any kind of investigation. An inquiry can only be started within 5 years of an issue, and once it starts, it has to be finished within 2. This means no more endless cases dragging on forever. And on top of that, you've got other reforms designed to cut the red tape. Businesses can now keep all their records digitally. A lot of minor offenses are now decriminalized, so you get a fine instead of jail time.
And instead of tons of paperwork, there's a single registration and one single return to file.
So we've seen what's in it for workers and what's in it for businesses. Let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture here. What's the grand vision?
This official statement really nails it. It spells out the two main goals of this reform. It's about creating a system that boosts both worker welfare and economic growth, because really, you can't have one without the other. And the sheer scale of this is just staggering. We're talking about reforms that are meant to impact over 400 million workers across every corner of India. It's a promise of a social safety net on a scale that's almost hard to imagine. And that really brings us to the final big question. The new code is a bold, ambitious promise, written into law, but its success is all going to come down to implementation. The whole system, especially for those gig and migrant workers, leans heavily on a solid digital backbone. So the real question is, can India's tech infrastructure actually deliver on this promise and make this new safety net a real thing for 400 million people?